Okay, so hi everybody. One of the things I wanted to be sure to talk about while I am thinking about it is a way to recognize why you might be reactive. Like if you find yourself habitually being reactive with people, maybe pushing them away, maybe they're trying to give you some advice or tell you something, and you might get kind of snappy with them or pushing them away. You find yourself kind of in conflict a lot, whether it's with a friend or with a lover. There's something I want to talk about. I actually just talked to a client about this. A therapist she went to told her to think about her thoughts and the thoughts that are creating the emotion so that she can then control her reaction. Okay. That's a lot of steps. Okay. That's really, really hard. That's a lot. Once you start thinking about the thoughts and which thoughts are creating which emotions, now you can't think about your thoughts, which are creating the emotion. Now you're not even there anymore. You have to be in the present moment. So if, what's much simpler actually is to just get into the present moment with your body, because your body knows the truth about what's going on. So if you're feeling activated in your chest, this is very likely fear. If you're feeling really, really activated in your body, this is probably anger. And if you're feeling like, if you think about maybe a pet that you've lost or somebody that you love that you've lost, you can probably feel some energy here in your jaw. This is a lot of times where we feel sadness if we were actually to tune into our body and see where we feel the activation. Now, oftentimes when we are reactive with people, it's because we are actually in shame and we are angry about being made to feel shame. All right, let me explain. Shame is a spiral, and we now actually hear it sort of joked about. I'm such a shame spiral. But what that means actually is that it's very difficult to actually get out of shame. Like you can walk through sadness, you can walk through fear, you can pillow punch through anger. You can actually sort of allow those actual emotions to happen, and that will get you out of resistance with them, and you can actually walk through them. Shame has no end. Shame is a spiral. Shame just that's where that expression comes from. And so if you the only way out of it actually is to move your physiology. So sometimes what that can look like is just I'm sitting here in this room with a bunch of shit coming at me at the same time, and I'm feeling really, really small. And so I'm just going to shift my body and maybe cross my other leg. Or I may actually get up and go for a walk, or I may excuse myself and go to the restroom. Because in that moment, shame is often related to something. It makes something bigger because it's oftentimes old. There's usually the anger that happens because of shame is often tied into some old rage around being shamed when we're little. There's all kinds of crap that happens when we're kids and we feel powerless and all that stuff. But that doesn't mean that you have to be defined by it right now. So the practice is in getting present with that feeling in your body, understanding what it feels like. Oh, I feel buzzy from head to toe, or I feel really heavy, or I feel paralyzed, or I can't speak. So often we feel really, really small and in our chair, and we can't even breathe or speak, right? Because we feel so small in that moment. And the only thing you can do is to move your body. Sometimes you just have to tap your fingers. Sometimes you can excuse yourself to go to the bathroom. Sometimes you can go for a walk. Sometimes you can move around in your chair. What often happens is the anger, the outburst that we have in that moment becomes the movement of our physiology and becomes the activation of the moment that allows us to get back into our power and out of the shame. And then we're apologizing. Now we're apologizing for overreacting. And then we can move to appreciation and say, oh, okay, well, thanks for, telling me what you said or whatever. I disagree, or I'd like to move on to another subject, or I'd like to whatever. But But if you recognize the shame in the moment for what it is, and you go, oh, I'm feeling small. Okay, I'm gonna move my body. Okay. Now, all right, so I'm not angry about being shamed now. Now I'm just done with this conversation. Or I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna recognize that person's not trying to make me feel small. They're actually trying to help me with something or whatever, but it's triggering old shit. So I'm either in the mood for that or not. So I'm going to now express my needs. I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to make maybe a statement about something concrete. Like, okay, we've been talking about this for like 10 minutes. I appreciate this. I appreciate that you're trying to give me advice. I'll take it for what it's, I'll not take it for what it's worth, but I will take that in, give it consideration. But I'm feeling a little bit like I want to stop talking about this. It's making me kind of uncomfortable. So do you mind if we move on to another subject? Or something to that effect. But what it does, what moving your body is going to do is to get you back into your body, into the present moment, into your power, your natural personal power in the moment. I don't mean overpowering. I just mean your natural personal power in the moment, where you matter in this conversation just as much as the other person does, right? You're not small and shrunken. So now you're back in your body, into the present moment, and you can now have a conversation from that space, and you don't necessarily have to get into a fight or be aggressive or push somebody off. So hopefully that's helpful. If you find yourself, if you're like, I'm kind of the common denominator and people kind of don't want to give me advice, they don't want to talk to me, they're sort of like, geez, I can't really help you because you're always so defensive or whatever it is. Okay, take it for what it's worth and go, all right, well, maybe let me see how my body feels in these situations and see what you can find out about your truth. I actually talk about this. I probably said everything that I say in my book, but I do actually write about this in my book, MILF 101, Make Your Life Fabulous. And there's a chapter called Yoke the Mind and the Body, where I talk about this, and I call it emotional yoga. So if that's helpful. Anyhow, I just wanted to share those thoughts. So I hope that's helpful. Email me, Sophie@sophievenable.com if you have any questions, or leave comments.